we are going to greet the chicos and the chicas. This is the analysis of the first round games from the second Chanddra Invitational, where we invite 4 people of similar rating ranges. Today the rating range is between 2030 and 2090. We make them play round robin games and they listen to this very analysis live. So this is the Chandra Invitational and this is the first round. In the white trunks, Joel Kato against the legendary Chess Aesthetic. So let's get rolling. It was a Sveshnikov, a very exciting Sveshnikov. In fact, I will fly through the opening to the meaningful points. So knight c2, bishop g5. So the 2 main variations here are rook b8 and bishop g5 indeed. 10:10 is the time control for YouTube, by the way. Thank you for chat for reminding me. And here a4 is most popular, but h4 was played in the game, which is a very fascinating idea. Of course, bishop takes h4 here, loses immediately to queen h5, and the bishop can't move due to the mate. But after bishop h6, it's a very debatable setup, whether h4 is a weakening move or a useful one. We followed it up with the most aggressive g4. And I said already during the game analysis that I'm not a big fan of this whole entire variation, and the reason for that is because after bishop f4, even if white wins this f4 pawn, I feel like black has a lot of compensation and initiative. So if you look at this position, for example, with like b4 being a typical move or rook b8 with b4, the main theme of the story here is that the white king has got no safe haven anywhere on the board. And yes, white is a pawn up, but boy, this is very uncomfortable to play. And I don't know if Chess Aesthetic knew it or not, because he played f6 here, which is marginally worse only compared to bishop f4, by the way. So yeah, and here I said to the chat that my instinct would tell me to play a4 for 2 reasons. A, because it seems like the right move, and 2, because traditionally this is what we do in this structure in the Sveshnikov. The idea being that you want to force a weakness on the a file in shape of this pawn, but equally importantly, you would like to liberate the c4 square to enhance our light squared control and pressure. Rook a4 is the better move first, and after king h8 we can move on to trying to trade all the pieces that can contest the d5 square. Queen f3 was the first move that I really disliked in the game, but that being said, it's not even a mistake according to the engine's measure, but I was certainly unsure about what was happening here. So I don't know why queen f3 was played later. Yeah, I was a little bit confused about queen f3. I suppose it's just covering f5, covering the pawn, opening up the back ring. But since we can't castle this way, yeah, this just doesn't sit well with me, because I have an impression of we don't know what we're playing for, and that always concerns me. Right, so bishop e6 was played. I'm fine with that move overall. Yeah, like type in by all means your thoughts, by the way. So yes, you are encouraged to respond to my propositions by all means. Yeah, okay, so bishop e6 challenging the d5 square, perfect chess. Rook d1, very logical. Knight e7. Now in this position I was proposing the idea of playing for b4 by playing rook b8 first and then a5. But maybe this actually works to white's favor, because knight b4, knight b4, knight b4 now hits both of these. Then again, I can maybe ignore this and play queen d7 and hit this way. Yeah, I definitely prefer white here. Although the engine slightly, like it's 0.2, 0.3 for white. But yeah, it's so much easier to play this position in my opinion for black. Knight e7 was played, knight b4, a5, very logical, trade, knight d5. And at this point during the analysis, of the game, or rather the live commentary, I called out queen b7 and queen d7 as my two choices. And I'm very proud of that because the engine approves. In fact, the engine prefers queen b7. I was contemplating queen d7 with the cute idea that it seemingly falls for knight b6, but you always calculate, friends, because the idea was to take this. And after queen g3, I suppose maybe queen b7 or queen c6, it is going to turn into a red hot mess. But yeah, queen e6 check and rook d6 regains the pawn. So maybe it's not as clever as I wanted it to be. Queen b7 is the more thematic one, hitting here, but more importantly, supporting b4. Bishop d5 was a very, very, very yucky move. And I thought during the analysis, to be fair, that it wasn't too bad because the bishop has a nice diagonal here. But the fact of the matter is, and this is very easy to overestimate, and I really recommend you to consider this. Now, when you see a bishop shooting down on a diagonal like this, covering a lot of important squares, you are prone to think that that bishop is an absolute monster. However, if none of those squares represent an important part of white's strategy, meaning a rerouting of a piece, for example, and there is no target on that diagonal, meaning they are all empty squares, it can very easily turn out to be a total waste of space. And in strong contrast, now white has a super easy plan of playing bishop c4. Note that this b pawn is going to have to move forward. Castle, put immense pressure on d6, and black doesn't seem to have any counter plan whatsoever. You said you thought that you would be able to play bishop c1 and then b2 and then d4. Nah, that is supremely unrealistic in my opinion. b4 was played, take bishop c4. I mean, this hits you like a rock because I have got a discover check. You need to dodge it, and after castles, I think this is now a very good game for white. Funnily enough, and it looks like I got outsmarted here because during the game someone recommended king f1, king g2, and the engine agrees. And the engine dislikes this because of f5, and apparently g5 is not playable here. Take. Oh, there is rook f4, so we can't take. So we need to drop back. And then after take rook f5. This is insane, guys. Check this out. White's only move here to stay alive is the insane f4. Chess is so beautiful. And now en passant, rook takes, and now I can block the pin. And then after rook f queen g5, black has enough checks to hold the draw. Note that the whole idea is based on the fact that the c4 bishop is loose. So when this check comes, I have to drop back here to guard it, allowing, again, the checks. That is absolutely sensational. I saw none of that. I just assumed that f5 was an outright, excuse me, losing move. It turns out that after ef, white is still better. Queen h4 here is not playable because king g2, rook h1, rook d6, yada yada yada. And so the best move for black here is g6. And after queen h3, gf, g5, this is definitely much better for white. Well, not much. It's definitely better for white, but not winning yet. This is a sensational line. Absolutely fantastic. To be honest, I thought after castles, black was busted here. Okay, so they played rook c8, which obviously is, by the way, a counterintuitive move. Because you definitely want to keep some stuff on the king side. And this is a mirage and an illusion. And I did say that in the analysis that this is typically a move that lower level players would be very attracted to because they feel that, oh, now both of my rooks are complete rippers. Whereas the reality is that after bishop b3, in fact, both rooks are utterly useless because this is not hitting a target and this one doesn't have a penetration point. And c1 is hardly penetration as far as the rook is concerned, because like I said during the game, trades will favor white because most endgames are definitely preferable for white. And so this move, in my opinion, is a positional blunder. And perhaps bringing the other rook here is still much preferable, and leaving one here for hopeful ideas such as g6, f5. So, yeah, this was definitely a very curious case of what I would call a positional blunder here. Queen d3, likewise. And I slammed this move immediately, suggesting that, no, this looks very sus, because it abandoned the king side. And I immediately called out here the idea of f5, g5, take, take, take. And the queen can never block because the bishop is hanging. And this move, by the way, Joel Cato playing white, was played almost instantly. And I really have no idea why you would play this, given that you had bishop b3, which secures pieces. So one very appealing feature of this position for white is that every piece is protected by another, and the protecting piece is also protected by another. So it is like the ultimate chewing gum in your hair, to quote Simon Williams. Like, it just holds it together so beautifully. Like, look, everything is guarded, man. Look at that. The bishop holds the knight, the rook. The pawn holds the rook. The queen holds the bishop. The pawn holds the bishop back. It's just perfect and untouchable. Right? And so a move like this to a master level player is like, whoa, thank God, man. Thank you so much. I am not beatable. This is literally the chess version of unmovable object. Right? Like, you just can't hurt me. And actually the move played is forcing it. Instead, we play a clumsy move that makes pieces awkwardly rely on one another. You know, not in the way how I described before, because now this queen can't fulfill any other duties other than guarding the bishop. And therefore, it was a blunder, and it was played very fast too. And this was really bad. So this I would also label as a positional blunder. And a tactical one too, by the way, but I will talk about that in a second. So the idea would be to, if you fail to spot this, is to have rooks in the front before you put the stuff behind. Because if you have queens in the front, you can't penetrate. Imagine the same position for black. I will play a lemon. Oh, actually, it's black to with a rook here. That's how you want your heavies. Because then you fulfill the role of the guarding as well as the potential penetration. And here actually this blundered rook d6, which was overlooked by white player, black player, and the commentator. Classic puzzle rush motive, by the way. Queen takes, rook check, and see you later, alligator. So that was pretty ugly. Bishop c1 was played cute. Very clever, very resourceful. Queen e2, just keeping it clean. Rook d1 incoming. Rook a5. I like rook d1 a lot. That's what I would have played. The engine liked take and then rook d1 or even bishop e6, but I think it's just cleanest as it is. Rook takes. And I think here too we had some dramas. So bishop f4 was played. Okay, so what I was going to tell you here is that a very common motive in such positions is the fact that the black king is really, really vulnerable. So you should not be afraid of this check and capture if that means that you can set up a back rank threat. Like this position is plus 7. Because this check is so bloody powerful that black just can't do a single thing about it. Believe it or not, the best move for black here is queen d2, immediately giving up a full piece. Because otherwise, you just get mated. Like, this is just Matutski. King here, check here, and mate. See ya, that's all. So, as soon as you see that, and you see that your opponent wants to penetrate and capture, And this is, by the way, one of my biggest mantra for lower level, club level players, is that they see a threat and they don't look into the actual value of the threat. They just believe it blindly and they play a defensive measure against it instead of investigating the actual strengths of the move and figuring out that, hang on, my opponent's threat is actually a blunder. And so the main reason why Queen D1 is a terrible move here is not because it allows black to come back into the game, but because it prevents a blunder. So what we are doing here is that we disallow our opponent to lose the game. So the first thing that we need to do in such situations where aesthetically speaking our position is beautiful is that when our opponent creates a threat, you should always be extremely suspicious about the value of that threat, because theoretically speaking, they should not have the right to create threats because our piece layout is so much healthier than theirs. So we need to call the bluff. And here this is just really, really bad, in fact. Because after Queen C1, I'm not even sure if this is winnable. Take, Rook C1. I called out here A4, Rook takes... Oh, sorry, no. En passant, take. Yeah, this is dead draw. This is dead draw. So, yeah, this was terrible. This Queen D1 move was probably the worst move of the game by white. And instead, King G2, Queen D3, yeah, Rook B5 even. And here Bishop C1 was just an awful one-move blunder. I mean, I would like to be lenient and not give too much grief to black for this, but I can't for two reasons. One, because it's a one-move blunder. After Bishop E6, we can resign. But that is not where I would really go hard on black here. The reason why I would go hard on black here is because it is the most basic endgame concept. Like, it's chess endgames 101. What is the most drawish endgame type ever known to humankind? Opposite colored bishops, thank you very much. Which is now inevitable. Is there any other endgame type that is even remotely close to be as drawish as bishop endings? No. So what do? Rook C1. Likewise, and this is something that a lot of people don't know / understand, that rooks with opposite colored bishops do not have a drawish tendency, provided that one side is up material. They don't, because the presence of the extra rooks allow a multitude of motives and ideas to come to the fore. In this position, for example, the fact that the back rank is really vulnerable and black doesn't really have an adequate way to bring the king into the game because of the rook is present. Note that without the rooks I have G6 and then I just zigzag my way like this. With rooks on, that's never going to happen. So this is just a shocking move, really. And by the way, I really would like you to see this because the visual associated with this is particularly painful. So I'm going to go full screen here. Watch the +3, 0.3 goes somewhere. Watch. 7-7. That's a rook and 2 pawns of a value lost by this move versus that. I don't think there's a more powerful representation of how bad that was. And game over. Okay, so that was our game number 1, and I'm going to cut the YouTube video here because I want to make sure that it's easy to edit and all that stuff. So thanks for watching, guys. If this makes it to YouTube, you legends, don't forget to smash the like, the sub, the super thank, and all those buttons. And I will be back with the next soon.